May I welcome the panel?
So I hope everyone has enjoyed the nice beverages and food sponsored by IDEA, right? By NCCORSU. So many thanks to them for the good food. I understand there are quite a bit of questions that were sort of withheld from the previous session. So now's the time to fire your questions and the two speakers here. Before, I have some reserve, but I would like to hear some questions from the floor first. Yeah, the gentleman.
In one of Mr. Kao's slides, there's a topic on data portability. So when a tenant is exiting, you need to return the tapes to the tenant. So how does the backup generally are being done by CSP? Do you encrypt them using hardware or software encryption, or as and when the tenant is exiting the cloud, you have to convert it to a specific format? And if you have 1 whole years of backups, there's a lot of things. How do you go about minimizing all the pains and efforts?
Okay, if you have a copy, this standard is in the self-disclosure. Actually, it's required of the CSP to mention the type of data portability, what kind of format do they support when they export data back to you. So they are supposed to declare in the self-disclosure.
I see his questions in two ways. One is data portability, and also data deletion, right? So you're talking about what if after the person leaves the cloud service provider, how is the reminiscent data being
Yes, and how we can facilitate the conversion of data to a format which is required by the tenants. If you have 1 whole years of backup or even 5 years worth of backup, then there's a lot of things to convert.
Okay. So on the portability, it's in the disclosure that they will say what format is supported. Then whatever copy that remains, the standard also specifies that they need to securely delete them. Right. So it's part of the specification in the standard.
Because it's unfair for the standard to take the format that you're going to export to, because it depends on what your new CSP, what kind of format does your new CSP support. So it's more of a disclosure requirement rather than a certification. It's a certifiable condition.
So if you go to the CSP and look at it in the disclosure, and if they did not declare the format that you support, then probably that's a place where you can seek clarification of them. That's the whole purpose of self-disclosure.
So I think for the standards, you can also see as a checklist if you are a user. Right? If you are a cloud user and you do not know how to properly evaluate a CSP, make good use of the standard as a checklist. It could also be internalized into some kind of internal cloud service provider. Any other questions?
From a consumer perspective, I mean, for big software as a service matter, I mean, we typically have to access their data from country A, for example. The data we are stuck in country B, and then their backup may be stored in country C, and here there will be a hacker from country D. I mean, how do we make sure that Singapore jurisdiction prevails and enforceable in terms of this?
Okay, in the standard, in the self-disclosure, under the category of data control, one of them is data sovereignty. They will have to specify, tell you where the data center, where your data will be kept. And if they were to move the data elsewhere, so will they be telling you first, or if they have to get your permission before they move the data to another place? So it's under the category of data sovereignty. They will suppose where the data will be located.
But even then, would that safeguard us to say that Singapore jurisdiction will be when things go wrong?
What is inside the standard? They will say what are the rules, applicable rules, and also or laws where the data is kept. They will have to mention those.
Because you're talking about legal rights.
Yeah.
Now, most of the contract you sign with international cloud service provider, if you look at the terms, enforceable in the court of San Jose, the court of California, or something like that. So even non-cloud contracts that we sign today with international parties are not even enforceable in Singapore. Okay. So this is not a specific cloud problem, right? Because you could sign with a service provider, and the service provider PNC said, okay, any dispute to be settled in overseas court or court in another jurisdiction. So it is, to be fair, it's not a cloud-specific problem. But definitely by forcing the CSP to disclose where your data is stored and which I think legal jurisdictions are you subjected to. Okay. Now there are other clauses in Singapore that have extraterritorial implication, like Personal Data Protection Act. So if the CSP outsource the hosting or outsource the backup or servicing overseas, the Singapore I think the component of that CSP would still be legally liable for any leakage of personal data that occur overseas. This is pretty clear in our Personal Data Protection Act.
Yeah, I'm referring to more overseas CSP like Clario or Oracle or SuccessFactors, those big vendors.
Now again, if you sign this contract through the web and the agreement is signed based on the TNC and you accept it, and the clause stated clearly this agreement is to be settled or governed in court of in a county or whatever in the states. There's no one can help you. Agree? Because that's a legal contract. You agree to the contract and it's agreed to not be settled here in Singapore.
One to the question on how you this standard, especially if the CSP is an overseas provider, how do you impose that this CSP must certify on this standard?
The certification is entirely voluntary, right? I mean, this is a Singapore standard, so it's up to the individual CSP whether they want to go for certification. I guess it will be the user also, whether the user demand for it. If there's a user demand for it, I want the CSP, to get clarity on this particular condition. Then probably the CSP will go for it. That government, in the government contract, we demand that the CSP must be certified. So most likely is the user will drive the requirement for the CSP to be certified.
Related question: is there any, besides this Singapore standard, is there any international standard related to international standard?
There's one coming out, ISO that's 7017. 17, right?
17 and 27017 and 27018.
They're actually more than that. 27018. ISO, I think you're probably the ISO 27000. The intention is 27000 is a base. You can't cross one restriction. There are sectoral focus standards like 27011, that's what counts. So 2717. 27017 is still in the CD stage, community draft stage. So it take at least a few years before you become international standard. 27018, which is on cloud privacy, is now a draft international standard, so you can actually refer to it. It should not change that much. There's also 27036 Part 4, which talks about cloud security from a supply chain management. And there might be some new standards that could be coming up. That's through our collaboration with the ISO board. But these new standards are currently still in progress.
I was just going to just more from the service provider standpoint. This is an area I think technology moves faster than laws and standards, and that's just the fact of the matter. And there absolutely are scenarios where people care about data locality and data sovereignty, and that impacts either their business or there's legal mandates or governance that they need to adhere to. What we do as a provider then is we service their needs using private cloud or managed hosting or performance cloud offerings. I mean, if a customer is specifically looking at things like that and they have strict concerns, then it may be that at the moment public cloud is not, a multi-tenanted public cloud is not what they're looking for. In which case, we had a conversation with them about clouds and where we can, meet their strict requirements in terms of data locality, in-country of provisioning and things along those lines.
But coming to that point, of course that varies from different CSP to different CSP. So even for public CSP, if your bargaining chip is big enough, because I know in the States there are some city, some counties, that when they use the CSP, the condition is the data will not leave continental US. So if you are in that position to negotiate such a term from the CSP, feel free to then say the data shall not leave Singapore. Even for the backup, for your DR, if they're willing to sign a contract on it. The gentleman in the back?
Yeah, how does that, I'm asking for all the service providers today, how does this new standard kind of fit in with the PCI, ESS, SSA 16? How does CenturyLink, I mean, obviously, I guess when you apply for a governmental contract, we have to apply with the standard. But how does that fit into the realm of the other standards?
CSS standard actually serve as an input to this standard. You can see this standard actually, some of them quite detailed and specific. The PCI CSS standard actually is very detailed and specific. You can see some resemblance and some of the requirements are being considered with the standard when we are drafting this.
So yes, PCI DSS is incorporated in the standard. Actually, even one of the consultants who drafted the standard, I think it's in PCI Council. So we look at TRM, we look at PCI DSS, we look at ISO 27000, we look at the TRs, technical references that was published before TR30, TR31. So we look at different inputs, because the intention is not for the standards to be either or so.
Right. Now, I'm not sure you answered my question, but how does, you incorporated, I guess, SSA 16 as well. You have
that's a US standard, right?
Well, or ISO 3402.
Yeah, 3402 is the international equivalent.
It's the exact parallel, very little differences. So, my question is, because each standard applies to certain aspects of IT processing, whether it be cloud or outsourced or whatever. In regards to this standard, does it fit more with, I guess, I'll give you an example. I'll try to hone in on the question, or hone in on the answer. Say, ISA 3402 applies more to process only, because, 27001 deals with the IT components and physical, et cetera. How does this standard pretty much parallel like 27001 and a PCI standard? When you guys developed it, which quite a comprehensive standard, is it just a combination of it all, or did you add any?
The deltas, right?
Yeah, exactly. The deltas, and then which one applies to which element for certification? For example, if ISA 3402 is back end, what is this? Is this kind of very similar to front end certification?
But also 27001 is a base as some in the slide.
Right, that I understand.
Then the PCI standard is, we consider that especially in the regulated sectors, requirements. So it's one of the inputs because there are not that many published available regular industry standards. So PCI DSS is served as base for the regular industry.
So I'm saying alignment is extremely more aligned to 27,000 family. So the standards is pretty much aligned. That's why you saw things like statement of applicability. The SOA is the consistent feature in the 27,000 family. So it is more aligned towards the ISMS suite of standards rather than the other auditing standards, if you ask me.
You can see some of the requirements very specific, like the password requirement, very specific. that kind of level of details, which you see commonly in PCI standards.
But with regards to the gaps, this could be a feedback to NCCO. So besides between MPCS and ISO 27000, if you are looking at gap analysis between MPCS with other standards, please pass the feedback to NCCO. I think I believe they are open. Actually, to make it.
And the question is geared to really trying to understand, what comprises it, how that's going to apply. Because right now it's only required for government contracts, correct? If it's asked to tender. But say, for example, do you see, and then maybe this is another question, do you see this going further to adoption, say, across the board, whether it's tendered or not? I mean, will service providers, from a central standpoint, voluntarily adopt something like that, even if they're not tenders?
So, first of all, we feel the importance to be adhering to local relevance towards that. And let me give you a very tangible example of that. The Ministry Authority of Singapore has come out with the TVRA, Threat Vulnerability Assessment Standards, and we have that on one of our 2 data centres in Singapore. In our second data centre, which is not TVRA compliant, is where at the moment all of our cloud services are served out of. The new cloud deployment that we're getting in later this year, I've said to the US, I want this deployed in TVRA, our TVRA data center. And that's not relevant necessarily to cloud. TVRA is aimed at specific financial services customers and co-location scenarios. But of the 2 data centers, the TVRA is one that's more expensive. But do we feel that then perhaps provides us vendor, industry recognition of having our cloud serviced out of that data center? We feel it does. So, in answer to your question, I think there's 2 scenarios that vendors like ourselves will be looking at. Number one, are they specifically going after, contracts or RFPs in which the, SS 584 is specifically indicated? Or do we feel that there is benefit in us having gone through the certification and saying that we are and we're servicing customers regardless of whether they're private sector or commercial? So that's probably, so we see value in that. To your point where I was having a conversation earlier, we're hoping there's not a large delta between the existing global certifications we've got and this one. That being said, we feel the importance of being industry relevant locally.
I think the assurance from the working group to develop the standard is we do not want this to be an island on its own, okay? And we can't afford to be an island on its own. So the inputs from various standards are added in. Now there will definitely be some delta. Let me just raise an example. Now, perhaps a particular standard say you shall do or perform regular security checks. Now that's a wording in that particular standard. Now, in MPCS, it will be more specific. Tier 1, once a year. Tier 2, twice a year. Tier 3, every quarter. Now, wording-wise, there's delta. But I would say whether you do once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year, that will still comply with, or is compliant with whatever other standards you're looking at. So it's not going to be that different. Now, what I think the working group has added into this standard is the cloud element of things. Because a lot of the standards, we talk about the SSEE and even ISO 27000, they are not cloud specific. These are created way before cloud. So, we talk about data retention, data portability, and data reminiscence. For example, when you delete data in a VM, how about the data in your snapshot? You may have taken a snapshot the day before, but you delete the data now.
Yeah.
So
the 270, whatever, 17, 18, probably won't be out for another couple of years. Yeah, very close.
Yeah, so we were actually aware of that. So we find that we can't wait for the international standards. Now, regarding your question about is there a plan to bring it regional, I think I will press a little bit to Same to share. But definitely in terms of the demand from within Singapore, I think there are activities lined up by NCCO to promote the awareness. I think the intention is that the standard can be a guideline for the users, the cloud consumers, the cloud users. And if they find that this guideline is thorough, is complete and is applicable, I think naturally it will be taken up more frequently, more regularly by the users here in Singapore.
To get on to your point about like not wanting to be an island, right? Because has there been any feedback or commentary from the industry, both sides, users and suppliers, right? If this is it becomes too onerous, so in a way it actually sort of put gates into along the way for the rest of the ecosystem, right?
I'll best open this question to both. I think Chris will also be a good person to answer from a CSP standpoint.
You wanted to begin?
I'm best to answer the question.
No, we have some feedback from us saying that the standard is very stringent and requiring us to relook certain aspects of it. Yeah. So probably the next release will be probably new some of these requirements. Are they how difficult to implement and choose? Because different CSP has different setup. So some of these requirements may be very onerous on CSP globally. So this will be probably the next review we will take group again when we revise the standard. So in this pilot, we hope to get as many feedback as possible, and which will feed to the next solution.
Just to add on, I think also they presented that in the process of drafting the standard, they will at least review the 350 different comments we receive. So yes, feedback from the private sector, from the CSP, from the potential users will be important. But I think it's hearing from Moscow. What's your view from CSP viewpoint?
So I'm fortunate to work for a company that focuses on enterprise requirements, and I'm going to use Amazon. This is not to draw differentiation between competitors, but Amazon, because everybody knows them, they're the 800-pound gorilla in the cloud market. They're a mass market cloud, and they are about price point attractiveness to their customers. But do they then offer that same level of rigor around providing enterprise requirements? That's not what we do. As a company, CenturyLink Technology Solutions, we really focus upon enterprise requirements, and I shared some of the customers who come to us specifically because they need things along those lines. At the end of the day, we are very customer-centric. We respond to what customers want from us and require from us. And if they're not going to get it from us, they're going to go to somebody else, and that's the whole beauty of an open market. At the end of the day, we go through the requirement of certifications because that's what the market wants in many instances. And so, again, I see this from a demand side perspective.
And that's the thing, right? What the market wants based on your target segment, which is the enterprise versus AWS, the mass market, right?
I think the market,
the drivers are different. Right?
They want to be able to trust a provider, but they don't have necessarily the know-how to do that, so they go to a third party to help them with those decisions. And Singapore has come up with their own set of standards in which to then help evaluate providers, and then through that process provide trust to customers. So I see that as a good thing. I'll be honest. It puts onus upon us to then go through that evaluation process and get the certification. But if that's we need to do that because the customer's asking for it, then that's to be expected. I don't see that as a bad thing.
So to qualify using the first question, the answer is really hard. Feedback that we receive for certain things was from some media providers claiming to achieve level 3 within a very short time frame. So it's from that perspective to comment to. It's not that it's
level 3 was too restricted.
So it required before the cloud ended is awarded because it's required. So it's not that straight up stringent. It could be achieved, but not with the time frame. So I think it's a
So time to market is
so it should be seen in that
No,
context.
and the thing is, to understand like the primary audience or wanting this, pandemic phase of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, because end of the day, right, the ends will justify the means, right? And if you look at just the cloud market and just for the record, I work for the other 800 pound gorilla, I work for Oracle, right? And I was actually looking forward to meet my friend CK here today because, from a cloud model perspective, right, while it's fine to certify the CSPs, the main principles like the Oracles and the SFDCs as well, but the fact of the matter is that whole ecosystem, right? They have the Force.com marketplace, Oracle has our CAD marketplace. So like you mentioned, innovation moves faster than laws and certification and standards, right? So in a way, are we also restricting ourselves because, as a service provider, solution provider, or an SI, I can put together a solution for end customer made up of a principal solution from the CSP, augmented by 20 other products on the cloud marketplace, and these 20 other products could be, like your Apple iTunes Store or the SFDC marketplace. Very innovative, bits and bobs that are put together by 10-man company, 20-man company sitting anywhere in the world, right? So that kind of business model, ecosystem, and all that. Are we unnecessarily putting kids along the way and then from an option and choice perspective?
Sorry, let me change that. I believe the Working Group and NCCO in drafting these standards are aware of this concept. That's why we did not adopt the usual ISO way of doing things, which is a one-size-fits-all. It's either you get it or you don't get it. There's no tiering in ISO standards, which I believe in the new ones that's coming out, there's also new tiering. So the Singapore version, perhaps you could say, is actually much more business friendly than compared to the general, commonly found international standards, because we do recognize that different needs have different challenges. So whether you are a CSP catering to the mass market, like Dropbox for example, versus a CSP that's targeting corporates, or CSP that's targeting towards highly sensitive sectors, that's what we hope that the standard through its tiering can cater for. If today we are presenting a one-size-fits-all standard, I think your argument is pretty valid. But we actually have taken that account, so it is actually a tier structure.
But tiering aside, right, which I guess it's definitely a way of balancing different needs and different standards to meet different needs, right? But the thing is, having to subscribe to be on the certified MPSC in the first place, regardless of whether tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, are we sort of shutting out, the large ecosystem of other, cloud solutions? And these may be, very small, players out there. I'll give you an example, right? You did not Oracle, so App Cloud, right? Well, we Oracle as the main brand, right? We have all our primary products and all that. App Marketplace, is made up of English vendors. I'm not sure whether you've heard of products like Brainshark and all that does. These are all tiny things which that basically get served up on. And this is not just Oracle's model. This is Salesforce's model as well. So I'm just wondering, for the rest of the other bits and bobs, how does all this fit in?
Normally, adding on to that, two viewpoints. I think first, as a user, of all the recent examples you've heard about, even Angry Bird being used to spy on the users, I think the concerns on the market is strong. To say that the security of the services that I'm a App Store owner, that's what, or platform owner, I think it's also in Oracle interest to be assured that the ISVs that you sign up with are of a certain security level. The last thing you want is for your ISV who sign up on your store to be then publicly disclosed 3 months later to have some severe vulnerability and it's being used to stop whoever's using the apps. Now, logical, right? I mean, these are logical schemas on the market. So we hope to at least establish a certain baseline, because in the absence of this baseline, your proclamation of security is as strong as my proclamation of security. Because from your viewpoint, it is secure. From my viewpoint, it's not secure. Whereas from my viewpoint, mine is secure, and from your viewpoint, my system is not secure. So who's right, who's wrong? We need to have a common yardstick. That's the purpose. That would aid the consumers, the users. I believe this development standard might also be beneficial to platform owners like Oracle. Because last thing you want is your partners be the cause of some bad PR reports in the press. Because you may not have a common yardstick to measure. We're not saying that all those certified vendors against NDCS are 100% hack-proof. There's no one that can give that assurance. But at least you have a certain degree of assurance. Say, hey, I'm a local ISV in Singapore, I already NDCS level 1 certified, I want to be on your Oracle platform. Wouldn't that assure you as Oracle platform owner, okay, you have reached a certain level of maturity or security in your software development, in the security of the ops, versus someone who fresh out, there was always a joke that I always shared with my friend. What constitutes a CSP? Maybe let me use Yao Sing as an example, since I'm looking for quite some time. What's stopping us from setting up CSP service where, let's assume you live in Jurong, I live in Clementi, and we set up 2 servers under our bed with either Hyper-V or so we do virtualization. We start a very wonderful looking portal, self-service portal. You can pay via PayPal, credit card. You want VR, we have one in Jurong, one in Changi. You want vMotion scalability, at most I go Sydney Square, buy one PC and put it in. You want more hard disk, no problem, another hard disk. What's stopping such a CSP from coming to the market? Nothing, right? So what assurance does consumers like us have? When I see a beautifully designed, professionally designed website claiming what they claim, and legally speaking, may not be wrong. It's in Changi and Jurong, VR, right? You can't beat that, right? We're in Singapore context. Yeah. So, I hope I've tried to answer my question in a pretty long way.
No, I mean, to keep the bad guys out, I understand the purpose of this. But what I'm saying is that also unintentionally, just through the whole certification process and all that kind of thing, we're potentially shutting out. I don't want to pick up everybody's point
I think if I may add here, I think one of the things in a standard is that it's a living document. It's not cast in stone. That's why it's called 584:2013. So chances are there will be a revision to this if necessary at some future date. So if the scenarios that you painted, because things will change, there will have to be updates. I'm sure NCCO will be looking at it. I'm sure Yao Sing career is set for life for a long time to make sure these things get updated.
So who knows, maybe the next revision has 4K, where if you find that level 1 is too stringent, that is killing off innovation, maybe we have a level 0 version, or -1 maybe required to cater for that. But again, I think I'll highlight this standard is voluntary. Now if the consumers doesn't find a need to refer to this standard while selecting a cloud service, naturally the CSP was targeting that market would not be interested to be certified against this standard. So does this standard stop them from providing the service? If there's no demand for better security, then go ahead.
If I may add one more thing here, the standard as it stands today is a Singapore standard, and as one of those things that the IT Standards Council tries to do is to elevate it as much as possible to an ISO standard. And so that process is already underway. So working with SC27 at the ISO level to make sure that this becomes a work item for them that subsequently becomes, hopefully, an ISO standard. But of course, in that process, the entire thing could be reviewed, revised, new layers put in, some layers taken out, and all the considerations that we need to look at. The advantage is that we are in some sense in the driver's seat to help to guide this along, but now we can work with external other national bodies around the world to make this an international standard. And so we do have a head start, and so that's kind of a positive start from my point of view. That's the work that we have.
In connection to your response on the tiering of the CSPs, right? trying to understand, since I haven't gone through the whole document, are you saying the CSPs likes of Amazon can still go for the lowest level of tier based on
Yeah,
and it's a different business model or different target customer base that they are having?
For example, if I'm a CSP, you are offering 3 tier of service: enterprise, top secret, and mass market. I could get my different line of business LV to be certified at different level. Because we recognize there's no one size fits all. That's like what the gentleman said. So the typical ISO practice, which I think for those of familiar with 27018 and 27017, is still one size fits all approach. So we recognize that, and we want to be more closer to the ground. We hear the concerns from the users and the CSP, and that's how the standard was developed.
And I'm not sure whether AWS is part of the working committee or do you hold them?
They are not part of the committee. In the focus group, they provided comment.
Yeah, so I think what we can say is the feedback was given by AWS and was considered. That's all I can say.
The government tenders vary as to, like, when you put a government tender out, will you specify what tier that they need to perform? In other words, say you're putting out...
I guess that's what it is. In the current bulk tender, it's meant to host public and classified information. So tier 1 is good now. But if the tenderer will come in tier 2, tier 2 is a superset of tier 1, adding additional requirement of more stringent. So if you are tier 2, automatically you are also qualified for tier 1. Right? So,
but I'm saying that it's all government contracts going to be tier 1.
No. You can't think that, because it's similar to how our EPP level, right? The different S level. You can't say all the tender must have.
No, it will depend on the tender. The tender will say we need you to be tier 3 certified.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on tender.
It depends on the nature of what.
Yeah, the agencies have the freedom.
So one way to get it is in the bulk tender, you qualify from service providers who may be NDCS certified for 1 or 2. So they're on the panel. So the government agency will give out resources. They will look at your specific requirement, whether it's level 2 and they will approach those which are level 2 or EP. So if I only approach those in 1. If they're not, depend on the specific requirement.
Sure. Depends on the nature of what services are provided. So the more secretive they're going out, if you want tier 3, or more security requirements would be tier 3 requirements.
Other than tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? Are you having workloads as the other dimension? Because you mentioned in one of your slides, right? Tier 2 IaaS, someone may be tier 1 SaaS, right? So other than tier 1 to 3, the other dimension would be whether it's IaaS, PaaS, SaaS.
Yes, in the certifications, they will have to spell out the scope of solution they are certified against which level and what services they're going for. Yeah. So in the bulk tender, we say we will want the customer to provide what kind of mandatory service, IaaS mandatory service. So we spell the requirement.
ISO 27003, it has a guideline, ISO 27002. Okay, so that's our NTCS as a guideline. Is there any development plan? If it is not, how is it addressed in our standing?
The question, so let me summarize. The question is that 27,000 family, there's 27,002, which is the implementation guideline. So does NDCS also have a similar implementation guideline document to assist the
The ISO 27000 it covers a wider area, and our NDCS is special on cloud security. It's much more in detail.
Actually, our standards, this NDCS is very more specific. The ISO 27001 is very high level generic, so that they require 27002, 27003 to supplement, to provide more specific examples, guide the implementation. Whereas this one is very detailed. So we can say that actually contain this kind of element inside.
So this is framework as well as a guideline.
And also Annexure B has specific implementation guidelines for cloud users within the standard. So when you pick up the standard, look at Annex B, it's the implementation guidelines for cloud users. And if you're a cloud service provider, it's Annex C, which is implementation guidelines for cloud service providers.
So the idea was not to force the reader by 3 standards just to effectively implement it. So we also consider this. Should we split the 3 documents and like pay 3 times? Or we try our best to package it in one and just need to pay for one.
Just to clear one misunderstanding, 27,002 is not a guideline on 27,001, it's a guideline on the annex on 27,001. And 27,001, the annex, is an annex to the requirements. So it's a little bit more sophisticated. There's another standard, a guideline for 27,001. But you can compare MPCSC very much with the annex of the of 27,001 rather than the main.
Maybe this question is, as a consumer, what the challenge is in the drafting of a contract, to subscribe to the software as a service, is the liability part. So, in your opinion, what constitutes a fair and reasonable liability and a failure?
So, did everybody hear the question? It's just around the liability that may exist within the industry for service providers. So, at the moment in the industry, the way that translates is through SLAs, service level agreements, and again they vary vendor by vendor. Something that Centrelink does is we offer financially backed SLAs. So, in the event that we have published uptime and increasingly we're also finding with service providers it gets into things like performance as well, where you sign up for a particular resource consumption and it must perform to what you believe you're getting. In the event that the provider does not meet what they've published and publicly stated that they will, then you are entitled to, with us, service credits against your contract. So, if the VM's gone up or the cloud offering's gone up within a month, then we'll give you some money back. That's the way I think the industry kind of addresses things at the moment. I know that other customers sometimes put special things into their contract, but that's usually on a case-by-case basis.
What amount constitute fair and reasonable for users and the CSP?
So I don't have the table at my fingertips. My apologies. I'm very happy to get your email address and send you through what we do. But I'm throwing indicative numbers out there, like uptime. Let's say it's 4 nines or something uptime. If you don't meet that, then based upon what you were not able to meet, then there's like a 5% or a 7% or a 10% service credit that then goes against your account.
Actually, the liability part is supposed to be part of the scope. They're supposed to state if they fail what kind of liability they are willing to undertake.
Are they contractually can honor that? Technically fine. By declaring that.
Okay, I think you verify this is a standard. This is not a legal contract.
Yeah.
But if you represent to the market, say if you don't meet it, I give you a Lamborghini. Okay, if I don't give you the 5 times, then if I don't give it to you, you can still sue. If it's not under contract law, you can still sue under equity or under tort for misrepresentation. Because this the SCCO is on our website where the full disclosure is going to be made publicly available. So if you tell the whole world that you are providing A, but you actually only provide Z, so I think lawyers will have a few times, will happy time actually, thinking you're providing legal advice to you because there's a public disclosure. Okay, I think we have time for the last questions.
Has there been any engagement with the European community and developing the standard or the EU cloud computing is at spot in relationship to personal data protection, and also Singapore wants to do something like a safe haven for data storage. So I think that's a major issue to attract European companies to.
One thing that I can highlight is when we dropped PR31, the NISA guidelines was included, and PR31 was considered as part of input into MDCS. So for the security part, right? Because NISA has
any engagement with anybody participating
not
in discussion, exchange.
not in terms of active, because NISA standard is open. Okay. It's publicly available, similar to the NIST standards. They are all publicly available. So references was made to the NISA's cloud computing security guidelines. Now, with regards to data protection, this is not a data protection standard, unfortunately. So there are data protection clauses. I think one of the things that we highlight is they must state clearly what country or what data protection legislation they are compliant with, and it's you as a user to assess whether this is something that is applicable to you. And instead, we comply with the EU data privacy principle. I forgot what's the number though. Then you have your US standards, you have Australian Data Privacy Act. So you have our Personal Data Protection Act. So it's up for CSP to be disclosed, and it's up for consumers to make an informed decision. So yes, as a CSP, you have to disclose all this. This is what our standard.
Okay, and when it was zooming the perspective, if they want to host data, sensitive data in Singapore, they will look at if that's done at if this provides some adequate level of security in terms of
yeah, so if the CSP discloses that I'm compliant with the EU data protection principle number XYZ, and it's in the disclosure website, I think that will provide assurance to the CSP customer that you can post it in the Singapore data center. Potentially, that's the intention actually. To provide full disclosure.
Can I ask a question about the disclosure website? How do you ensure that that is kept updated? And what is there a process to, if I've submitted, and how would the site come back to me, or is it onus on me to tell you this has been updated? Where is there a process for? Is there a timeout for that matter?
No, the disclosure probably will have a date where it's signed.
So when I put a date there, is it valid for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year? Is there something like that? Do I have to state that?
It's the CSP to refresh it. Let's say if some things is changed, right? Then the CSP.
So the onus is on the CSP to update it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all the time we have.
Can I find a list of let's say CSP that is MTCS, let's say certified level 2 or level 3?
That is the site that we are establishing that will keep information about publish the disclosure. At the same time, we group them tier 1 CSP, these are the lists, tier 2, these are the lists. Yeah. So we are having this site too, so that users can go there. Let's say I'm interested in tier 1 certified CSP, then they can see who are the top providers.
So it's not ready. So it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet.
So I mean, right now, we
no one is certified and all that.
Oh.
So there's no information to go for.
Okay.
But the disclosure statement is there. We have about
No one is certified yet.
We was just certifying the project.
Still being certified. Akan datang coming soon.
Yeah, there's only
one
one
is certified. The certificate will publish there.
So I'll hand the floor again. Many thanks to the panelists. And,